Welcome to the Lovecars On the Grid podcast, your global motorsport roundup with me, Tiffany Dell, and Paul Woodman.
Welcome to Lovecars On the Grid, your global motorsport podcast roundup, coming a little bit late this week, but there's so much to go through because this bloke is in California living the dream. So he's in a hotel room somewhere. I don't know where. We always seem to be on the road because we're super busy at the moment, but we want to bring all the motorsport news from around the world, and it is kicking off everywhere. But there was loads of proper racing action as well. Well, if you can call the Bahrain Grand Prix racing action, but we'll come on to that in a moment. What have you got for us this week, Tiff?
Yeah, I watched the Grand Prix here in America, so didn't see much Formula One fever in San Francisco. But anyway, it happened, and I watched it, and we all fell asleep. And it's such a shame, you know. I mean, obviously, we'll talk about maybe the drama that's not going round on the track, but just the Grand Prix itself. I mean, it's just status quo, isn't it? After all those hopes that someone would come up with a Red Bull beating car, and the top 10 was, the two Red Bulls, the two Ferraris, the two Mercedes, the two McLarens. And the two Aston Martins, and it looks like we're ahead for a season just like last year, and it does worry me. We get talked about moaning about Formula One too much, but I'm a passionate fan of it, and I can't see much race. These cars are just trucks, Even towards the end of the race, the only exciting thing I made a note of for the race was, the Yuki Tsunoda and Ricciardo chasing Rosenquist.
Hulkenberg.
Oh no, not Hulkenberg. For goodness' sake!
Who is he chasing? Magnussen.
I'm still jet lagged.
Magnussen. Must be Magnussen. It's one of the Hasses, yeah.
And so, and all this radio talk, I'm faster than Ricciardo's on the phone, I'm faster than Yuki, let him pass. And Yuki saying, well, I'm so close to Magnussen, I'm about to overtake him. And there's new regulations to make them follow closer. It was a perfect example. They can follow closer than they used to, which we said, when they changed the rules. But they can't get the last bit, to get right into the gearbox going through a corner. The front washes out. And so, they were so close, and yet you knew that nobody was going to overtake anybody when it, came to the DRS stage, where obviously the Haas is quick in a straight line. And so that was the only entertainment, was Yuki getting really stroppy with.
He got even stroppier afterwards, and Daniel called him a helmet, effing helmet, and so it got quite heated at the end. So it'd be quite interesting. But I think what it's like on track. You do get, when that helmet goes on, however placid you are, you become a different type of person. But the Grand Prix, I agree, was so boring, so dull. I'm so disappointed that it's business as usual for Red Bull. I really thought Ferrari, Aston Martin, McLaren, Mercedes were just going to chip away that a little bit more, but it was just so dull. A real snooze fest.
Off the circuit, it was kicking off.
Where do we start?
I haven't got too much of an update, but perhaps you got an update. Anything? But today they're talking about Max going to Mercedes and Helmut Marko leaving, and we've got bossy Verstappen saying his son is going to the team car. He's actually said that he's got to go, hasn't he, Jos?
Well, I can tell you a bit of inside information. I don't want to reveal my source, but a little bit of inside information is that the person that so Christian Horner's made it quite public. He is not going to leave Red Bull. He has no intention to leave Red Bull, which I think probably the wrong decision, because I've read, as most people have, those WhatsApp messages, and they're publicly they're very, you can get hold of them quite easily now.
Yeah.
And it would seem that they're true. Lots of verification on that, and I don't want to comment on that. But the person may or may not have been very good friends with the Verstappen family and chose to eat with them and chose to be with them on Grand Prix weekends as opposed to being with the team. So clearly there's a bit of an ally there in terms of Verstappen. And he has made it quite clear that, look, if he stays, we're not. Now, how awkward must that be in the pits, in the paddock with those guys? But it's just those WhatsApp messages, if you haven't seen them, look, it's a lot of stuff that you probably just shouldn't say. You shouldn't say it. And in this day and age, I'm amazed at Christian Horner still at Red Bull. In this day and age where you're not allowed to say anything, and there's stuff that you really, really shouldn't be saying. You definitely shouldn't be saying if you've got a wife. at home, and it's just a little bit of too much over. You're crossing the line, you're pushing, you're expecting to get something back, and the person that he was sending the message to never really engaged that way, which maybe it was the chase. Maybe someone that's got everything, glamorous wife, all the money you could possibly wish for, high-powered job, maybe because it was the chase that he kept going. So anyway.
A motoring journalist who I respect, has tweeted that, he's going to do a Bernie Ecclestone, that, that he feels so confident that his position is, so strong with Red Bull that he'll just let the rumours bounce off him like Bernie always did. Bernie just would say what he wanted to move on in life. And
but Bernie was the big boss. There's a big difference. There's a big difference between the big boss of Formula One and just being a team boss.
Created all the success for Red Bull. I read some stories that one of the Red Bull leading Thai shareholder, he was out there with Christian and looking, happy to be with Christian. So it's sort of, it's I don't know, it's Helmut Marko. I don't know how involved he is. He's the one sort of standing to one side, and it's. I don't think he'll leave unless he's forced out, by Red Bull. Which I think, no, I think we just have to almost accept it and move on, which seems incredible. But it's really the Verstappen family pressure is the only his only danger is if Jos Verstappen goes on.
They know the truth, and you don't be that vocal and that public, even the Verstappens, unless you know the truth. They know the truth, and I'll talk. We've spoken offline about this, but there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. But I can't say anything. But the truth I think will come out, and clearly that independent investigation hasn't revealed the whole truth. So let's see what happens. It's not good for the sport. It's very damaging, as is a lot of the other stuff that's going out at the moment.
It was good for the sport. It was good for the sport, and as much as the press weren't concentrating on how boring the flipping race was. So I expect Liberty are loving it for the next video in a year's time for Drive and Survive. It'll be sent to stage.
I don't even think Liberty, in quest of their entertainment forever, are going to be enjoying this, because I think it's all awful for the sport, and hopefully it'll be resolved soon. Same as Mohammed bin Salem as well. He's come out with a couple of statements. Don't know whether you've seen them in the States.
Well, he's in trouble now. He's in trouble now. The latest I've read on the Twitter.
Yeah.
He's been accused of trying to fix or trying to get whose was it? It was Aston Martin. Was it Fernando Alonso? Reduced.
So he's trying to get a penalty. Yeah. So he tried to get some penalty points, but the bigger one that's just come out, verified by the BBC that they've seen it by the whistleblower, is that he tried to cosh Vegas, get people to say that Vegas wasn't homologated and appropriate for the Grand Prix in time. Mohammed bin Salem again. This
he was trying to stop Vegas happening.
He was trying to stop Vegas, which I'm surprised at. I don't know why. Maybe because of his religious beliefs. I don't know.
It's the power struggle, FIA versus Liberty. It's all a mess. But back on the track, only other things I saw that happened in Alpine. If anyone else is in a mess, Alpine. I think they've sacked their two leading designers today. I've never read somewhere.
Yeah, they did.
So they're in a huge mess, Alpine. Otherwise, it was pretty much as last year. And I suppose the Hasses were going a bit, but Hulk managed to get into the top 10. He always seems to qualify well there, which is a big plus for him. He was the one that kicked out the perfect top 10 with the 5 manufacturers, because Stroll was down in 12th. And then, unfortunately, Hulk went to the back of Stroll at turn 1, which ruined both their races. But that was the only...
Well, you said ruin... Sorry, Tiff, you said ruin the races, but I think Stroll did incredibly well, considering.
Came back, yeah.
Yeah.
But the cars are so superior to everyone else he beat, sort of thing. But there's some great Formula 3 racing I watched, and Formula 2. I didn't see
hang on, let's stick on Formula 1 second, because you haven't even mentioned the Ferrari rivalry there, the epic Ferrari rivalry between Carlos and Charles. That was good. That was good racing. That was hard. We're going to see that all year.
Yeah, but Leclerc's car was obviously a bit nobbled, this braking problem he had. So it was a bit of it wasn't a straight fight. He was obviously struggling for the word go.
But Carlos is on one, let me tell you. Vamos, Carlos, he's on one. Yes, Formula 2 was good. I watched quite a lot of the Formula 2. Didn't see much of the Formula 3. What have you got to report?
It was dominated. The Formula 2 was dominated by Barbadians. So Zane Maloney won both the races, the reverse grid. I think he qualified When he qualified third, so he started reverse grid 8th, so he came from 8th to win the sprint race and came from 3rd to win the main race. But the interesting about Formula 2 was, and it always worries me and it always terrifies me for drivers' careers, that they got a new car this year. And although everybody's got the same car, as we often said, if you're in a Prema car, you've got to get yourself in the best team, because even though the cars are identical, certain teams can make them qualify better. So we had this first qualifying session of new cars. The evicted cars were first and second. They're good drivers, but they got the click. Whereas the Prema boys, who we always rave about, so you've got to get a Prema car, were 18th and 19th. I mean, it's just stunning how important the setup is of these supposed identical cars. So if you'd got your money this year and got a Prema, you'd be complaining. But as it is, it's of course Ollie Behrman, who, he's the superstar of last year, and he did those fantastic free practice ones in Haas's, so he can drive a Grand Prix car really well. Yet he's now 18th, and he's got this young Italian who's super highly rated.
The Mercedes guy, yeah.
Kimi Antonelli, he out-qualified Ollie 18th and 19th. They finished the first race 14th and 16th, again, Antonelli ahead. And then the main race, Antonelli finished 10th to Ollie's 15th. So although they're at the back, you've still always looked at as to who's going to ruin your career. So Ollie's got a big problem with his hands to make sure this young kid, rookie Italian, doesn't embarrass him and reduce his...
Sorry, I was just going to say, of course, he is tipped to be one of the best. He's tipped to be a Mercedes Formula 1 driver. So, but Ollie Behrman's one of the best as well. But interesting with the Prema to see it so far down the field.
But imagine this has been Ollie's first year in Formula 2. So he didn't have a fantastic rookie season as he did. Then the history changes, and the team manager said, "Oh, he's not that good, is he really?" It is terrifying for these kids, to get into a team that provides a car that can win the races. Yeah, of course, Vic had a problem when Marnie got bumped off a pole position because they found his right hand was slightly wrong. So it shows how close they're all getting. They all said, "Oh, we hit a curb or something." It's the classic, everyone when you're right, it's wrong. Hit a curb. But he got pushed to the back, didn't he? And so they are all these engineers. They always say spec cars is boring. You don't need good engineers. Well, do. They're vital. And the other Brit, Zach O'Sullivan, he qualified 7th, finished 7th in the sprint and 4th in the main race. A good all-round weekend for Zach O'Sullivan. As a man drilling there's a roofer next door about to put tiles on the roof. So apologies for the noises. And Taylor Barnard, who just got into Formula 2 at the last minute, he qualified 10th, did really well. 9th in the reverse grid and 10th in the main race. There's the man. Can you hear that bang?
Yeah. This sounds so bad this week. Sorry that he just forgot his beloved earphones. So we're sorry about that. But
the Formula 3 races were Royal Britannia. The Brits won both Formula 3 races. They were actually the best races. I watched the reverse grid race with Arvid Lindblad, this highly rated Brit. I think he qualified 9th, so he must have started 4th or something, or 3rd. So he won in real good style the sprint race, and then Luke Browning, who qualified 2nd, won the main race. So the Brits done good in Formula 3, and at least that gave us some proper racing. Where are they going next?
There was some proper racing in Formula 2 as well, but it was there was a safety car, but more overtaking than Formula 1. That's for sure. But that's not hard, really.
Didn't see those races at all. The other races I didn't see any of, but has had a huge Twitter support, is the World Endurance Champion at Qatar. The drivers seem to love the track, and it seemed to go really well. We had this fantastic Porsche finish. But again, a bit like your engineer and your team in Formula 2, we've got this balance of power, which is going to be a big, big thing in this World Endurance Championship. Now it's grown so well. So we've got the Le Mans hybrids against the Daytona hybrids. Which of course Porsche are Daytona hybrids, and Cadillac that finished 4th are Daytona hybrids. So Ferrari that finished 5th and 8th, and Toyota 9th. They all say, well, Ferrari said, well, we knew we didn't have a chance of winning anyway because the Daytona hybrids are quicker, and that is going to go on and on all year long. And it's a shame because
has it always happened, Tim? The balance of power.
Well, no, because the great Group C days, which I was lucky a part of in the 80s, 90s, you
can watch that on the road on Prime Video if you want to. Yeah.
You all just had the set amount of fuel for the race, so you could run whatever engine you want. You could do whatever you wanted with the chassis, obviously with a certain size, but engine size is all different. But this once that when you look at how much they change these balance of powers, Toyota have got 5 ounces of lead added, and the Cadillac's got a millimetre less air intake. So they do amazing different slight changes to try and make them all equal. But the trouble is that from track to track, that's almost impossible. What's an equal at one track to another? So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
So what about Peugeot? This car that you said was never going to do anything, was going to be awful.
It's never going to do anything. Well, again, that's the balance of power. So obviously they had such a miserable year last year with their wingless wonder not working, as I said it wouldn't work. They've also been given a huge balance of power advantage. But I don't know quite what's going to happen, because that was the last race of the wingless one. They've already said it's going to replace the next race by the new model. Now, how does that get balance of power? If it's never raced before, I just don't know how they look at it. So yeah, they should have finished second. They should have broken the Porsche podium. And it was Jean-Eric Verne, wasn't it? With 2 laps to go, the power suddenly disappeared from the poor. But everyone says it was great watching. But it's never that exciting, nose to tail in sports cars. But
they look so good, though.
Yeah, 19, prototypes and 19 GT3s in the way, with Porsche winning that as well. So Porsche had a great weekend, apart from Jenson Button, who said his Porsche had problems and he finished way down. But yes, quite. And it's great that Porsche have got these privateers now, which we had in the great Group C days. So and there's one privateer of Ferrari now as well, 3 Ferraris. And it was the Penske factory team that came first and third, and the Jota privateers second. So yeah, everyone's raving. I can't wait to settle down and watch a race myself. Doors opening, closing behind me.
Come on in. Sneak down. I've blocked the camera. He's very shy, so I've blocked the camera. Oliver can come in now. So it was good. And racing at Qatar, they're going to be to the sales circuit, which is the Formula 1 circuit. Did you see? I don't know whether you saw the news as well, but Saudi Arabia have come out with this massive new Formula 1. What they want to do, because the street circuit at Jeddah was only a temporary thing, and they want to do this huge.
The Grand Prix is going to remain at Jeddah, and then they'll have 2 Grand Prix, probably the more next.
Probably.
Then there'll be 10 Grand Prix. Then it will be the Middle East Formula 1 Championship, a Middle East and USA Formula 1 Championship. No other circuits will be allowed, apart from Monaco. Monaco will have to stay.
But Qatar seemed to lend itself well for the sports cars.
Yeah, no, it looked good. Qatar looked good. Of course, Qatar this weekend is not the MotoGP, so I want to be in Qatar now. But just finishing off last weekend, I did sit in the bar and watch the NASCAR. So again, you rave about NASCAR, but it wasn't the best of races. It was the 1.5 mile. Where were they? Oh, Las Vegas, baby. Nice. Sometimes the 1.5 miles, it's not non-stop overtaking, but there was some great challenges side by side, and it was a great race because the great Kyle Larson in the 5 won it. But he was chased down by the Toyota of Tyler Reddick. And these 1.5 miles are some of them, but not all of them, where if you're doing 178 miles an hour and they're an inch away from the wall, and you're sitting on the left-hand side of the car, and you just got to stay. And Larson and Tyler Reddick are the absolute masters of doing that for lap after lap after lap. And I watched the highlight just for the last lap of the race on the television, and Larson was sort of protecting the middle line, and Tyler Reddick came out of the last lap just permanently an inch from the wall at 178 miles an hour. So there was some great dice. Kyle Larson early on had about a 5 or 6 or 7 laps side by side trying to overtake the other Kyle. So yeah, it was entertaining, but not the most fantastic, exciting race. But they're not always, but still lots of overtake.
I've seen it before, but I only saw it again. It came up on social media somewhere, where on one of these bowls, and the cars are going past, and when people are close to the wall, and you just the force of the cars going past at nearly 200 miles an hour.
And the slipstream, I did it at Daytona in the opening laps, but I had a press pass so I could go right down to the front. And first we had 200 miles an hour, but then once the cars, they'd probably disappeared. The last car had disappeared round turn 1 into turn 2 probably, and the wind was still the slipstream. The wind went past me for about 10 seconds after the last car. It was incredible.
When have you driven a NASCAR? You've driven one, haven't you? But not racing, just for filming.
Yeah, amazing. setups and steering right down the straight and then turning it in. Amazing things. So that will always be an entertainment every weekend. Not always the most exciting race. I'm sure you'll point out that you saw one and it was boring. But the best race, probably the Formula 3, I think, was the most exciting racing of the whole weekend. So good luck to the Brits in that as they dominated it. So next weekend, gosh, we've got so much coming up. This first 2 weekends, because the Formula 1 boys go to Saudi with the Formula 2, but no Formula 3. But the FIA Academy ladies, they're having their first race. So interesting. Our favourite Dorian Pain we were impressed with. She was out. They didn't do the Iron Dames. They finished about 6th or 7th in class, I think, in the Lamborghini at the WEC. So also Abby Pulling, of course, the British driver, and I'm not sure the finalised entry list of that, but so it'll be interesting to see how the girls get on with their new F1 Academy. Then in St. Petersburg, which is where I would like to be if I'm going to choose where to go for motorsport this weekend. Oh, that's close though, isn't it? MotoGP Qatar. But no, I'm going to St. Petersburg. You watch the onboard to those Indy cars. That's every year. They're dams of opposite lot, no power steering, wall to wall. Not much overtaking. Again, it won't be that much overtaking. It's a tight street circuit with one long straight. But when they do overtake, it's a last-minute dive. So that will be the fabulous race. 29 Indy cars now going around St. Petersburg. Also the Indy Lights, the NXTs. We've got the 3 Brits out there. We've got Louis Foster, who's in his second year, who's probably one of the favourites for the championship this year. And of course, Jamie Chadwick, I think, a second year. Another Brit's joined, Joshua Mason's joined them. So 3 Brits out there. With a fascinating battle, really. They've got this black kid, Miles Rowe, who won the Pro 200, the class below Indy Lights. And he's really highly touted. So I think it could be the battle between Louis Foster and Miles Rowe to headline the Indy NXT. So I'm fascinated to see how that works. Fascinated to see how MotoGP works. Of course, we've got all his names, I keep on forgetting. Our Moto3 Super Acosta with his KTM going up against all the Ducatis. And of course, we've now got Marquez on a Ducati. So there's really interesting stuff. See the MotoGP works.
Did we learn much from the testing a couple of weeks ago?
No, it's all fudgy. The same as Formula 1 testing. Well, I think Ducatis are still on top, but Pedro Acosta was up there with his KTM. I don't know if the Brits are doing MotoGP Moto3 or not this year, the Moto3 team. I haven't seen any confirmed entries. Well, Jake Dixon's definitely out in Moto2. So, yes, MotoGP will be fascinating around Qatar. Over in Japan, the single-seater season starts off their Super Formula, where Teo Porcher, of course, is a driver that should be in Formula 1 in an Alpine at the moment, but isn't because Zhao's got money and Bottas is boring. So hopefully, it's always dangerous. You go for a year like that, if you don't then do that well in the Japanese Super Formula, you disappear off those Grand Prix lists. So he's got to perform. The more fascinating, of course, is this young 17-year-old, she is now, Juju Noda, who's this girl that's had so much press over the last 10 years since her dad raced in Formula 3 in Britain and did some Super Formula. She's been testing and racing, but now they've put her right up into the top level. She's never raced in Japan before. And their management team have decided to put her into. So she was very slow they had a test session in the wet, which I read some results right at the bottom. But anyway, I hope she goes well and doesn't get too embarrassed. And she's one of the ladies that's been struggling, and lots of press, lots of enthusiasm. Then the NASCAR boys, of course, out for weekly entertainment. They've gone from the super speedways of Daytona to the 1.5 mile at Vegas, and now it's down to the old 1 mile track at Phoenix. And the interesting thing, this is what NASCAR do, because the cars weren't overtaking much on the short tracks because they got too much grip and they're not moving around enough. They've they've taken 30 to 40% of the downforce off. So there's huge. They've got this huge. They're spoilers that don't look quite as attractive or as aerodynamic as Formula 1 car. It's just a slab, it's a wall, isn't it, on the back of the boot lid. They've cut them from 4 inches to 2 inches. But they've taken some of the underbody airflow out. So they've taken a load of downforce off to make them race better, Formula 1, not more downforce. So much interest in motorsport coming this weekend. And hopefully we'll get a report back in a week's time. You can bring more gossip.
Well, there'll be plenty of gossip, I think, in the coming few days. But let's see what happens with them.
Now that everybody seems to have come out and said they've all put forward their opinions, like Verstappen, and I can't see it moving on anymore. Hasn't it all?
Who's bigger,
it all...
Christian Horner? Who's bigger? Who's more important for Red Bull, Christian or Max?
That's the big question.
That is the big question.
I think for the Austrian Red Bull seems to support the Verstappen half, and Thailand Red Bull support the Horner half. That's from what I've seen in sort of gossips. So it's 51%,
I'm not
49% owned by Austria. And, but yeah, interesting
about that.
To Max to Mercedes, in the background.
So highly unlikely, but the little Italian kid will be hoping that never happens as well. He'd be wishing Christian Horner leaves. On that note, thanks for joining. Thanks also to Mrs. Nadell, who's lurking in the background, had to listen to that. And we will see you next week.
Okay,
Cheers.
all the best.
Enjoy your holiday. Have a beer for me.